You are listening to Power Marketing with Kevin Lee. Kevin and his agency Did It have helped thousands of businesses win through superior marketing, as have his books, articles, speaking engagements, and the E-Marketing Association Power Marketing podcasts. Here's Kevin.
Here today with Mike Elson, who has a startup which is in a pretty interesting niche. It's voicelessons.com. And so the idea that one can learn everything voice remotely, not just always in person. I'm sure, Mike, when you had a vocal teacher, it was face-to-face, but you've now given people the opportunity to take voice lessons remotely. So I'd love to hear what the origin story was and sort of how you decided to launch this venture.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone. Mike Elson. It's a pleasure to be on the show. And Kevin, thank you for the invitation to be here today. So I'm founder and CEO of voicelessons.com, as Kevin mentioned, and you can go check us out. And how the company came to be, well, that's a good story, right? So I myself am a singer. I was singing in kids choirs from like young age, children choir, community church choir, things like that, and in school. And I loved, to study singing. So I actually double majored in computer science and vocal performance at the University of Southern California. And that's where I really kind of got into the real science and pedagogy of how do you train a voice and how does someone learn how to sing. And myself, I went through many voice teachers, I would say, some good ones, some bad ones, and through the process of trying to understand how my own voice worked. I learned, okay, this is how teaching works for some people. This is how other people can learn. And sometimes it's as simple as being receptive to the right kind of teacher, I would say, or the right kind of person's trying to to give you the information to learn. But the main thing that came up for me was it was the process in which you actually go about learning voice. Like a lot of people have this misconception that you just sign up for lessons and you're going to go study with this coach, and after 5 lessons, you're going to sing a song. And, everyone will wish it was that easy, right? But everyone starts from different places, right? And primarily, we always kind of like listen to someone's speaking voice. And if you can hear just in their speaking voice, okay, how is this person, using their speaking voice? And you can kind of tell how they might go about singing. So the process for me actually became, I went to one coach, that didn't work. I went to another coach. And then finally, after, I would say 5 coaches, it was like, oh, I know what's wrong, right? You actually have to practice. You have to practice what they're giving you, because sometimes people will go to their lessons and their coach will say, I don't know, many things that they think they want to hear to learn to improve. But the big thing for me, the aha, was you need to train your voice just like you're going to the gym. Just like you're signing up with a coach and a gym trainer, right? They go to the gym and you don't just stand next to your trainer for 30 minutes. They take you first to the bench press, and it's like, okay, let's warm up, your chest or your arms, or let's go over here and work on your biceps. There's certain exercises that you have to do. And you might get through 7 exercises in a session. You might get through 12. You might get through 20 that day. But just like going with a coach or a trainer at the gym, you need someone that can actually hear what your voice is doing and then recognize, oh, your lateral cricoarytenoid, that's over here, it's not pressing your cords together correctly, because there's over 60 elevator muscles, that want to pull your voice up. There's only, I think it's about 9 depressor muscles that pull it down. And so if you don't have the right balance of muscle and airflow working together, all in kind of unity and that balance, then your voice can go off and wind up with any number of what we call vocal faults or problems. So really, my story, it started out with, hey, I wanted to be a singer. I wanted to be a professional singer. I wanted to go sing on Broadway. And then it was like, oh, I really liked opera more. I wanted to go be a professional opera singer. And because of my computer science degree, I fell into the .com era in the year 2000. So before the first .com boost, busted and everything, and wound up in business. And so I had my first startup by the time I was 22, and I was like, okay, well, the music's going to have to wait. I'm going to have to just keep pursuing it, keep studying it, It was more of a passion for me. And that business did very well. Our first investors, that invested in that startup got a 12.9x return. Prosites.com is still running strong. And they've merged, I think, with 4 or 5 different companies, doing 25 million. It's doing great. They're all happy. And so when that company sold, then it was like, what was I going to be doing next? And my life changed a couple things. I wound up moving. And then so when I moved away from my teacher, that's when I went, aha, how do I give that same experience that I was getting in person with this instructor that took me, I don't know, like I said, 5 or so teachers to find someone that was working, and then keep that progress going? How do you do that online? And the biggest thing that occurred to us was, well, you're playing, I'm singing, there's this audio lag situation. So then, my mind just went, okay, how can I solve that? And then I talked to some of my voice teacher friends. I said, dude, if you could make it so I could teach online, that no one can do that because this audio lag thing. So this was back in 2016. Most of us, I didn't even know what's a pandemic, what's COVID-19. We had no idea what that stuff was back then. And so we started working on it. And within the first year, I'd come up with a pretty novel solution, which was to create a software that connected to a digital keyboard. I got one behind me. And that software then can take the MIDI notes that come off the piano, and we take the exercise, kind of like a scale pattern. You can think like, this is the analogy I would compare to doing the curls or the triceps. It's, you got to learn to sing la, 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 right? And first they might have you do that on la or na or ma or whatever the different syllables you're going to sing with. But you got to go, okay, we're going to start here at your voice. Your voice is on this pitch. It might be, it might be middle C, it might be the octave below, but everybody's voice is different. So you can't give everybody the same exercise.
Yeah, right.
Right. If it was, you could just go buy a CD and everyone would learn by the same exercises and we'd all sound the same. And that's not how it kind of works. So, the thing became, how can I make it so a remote teacher can create those exercises and control them remotely while the singer can be anywhere? And then during the process of that, the actual singer walks away with, here was my lesson plan. Here's the actual workout I did. I did these 12 exercises today, and they get that through our lesson platform, which we created, our web studio for lessons. And then it's available in their, palm of their hand and a mobile app at the end. So that was kind of, the story of it. I guess is a long-winded answer, is that it's from just my personal experience, then from my passion and struggle for my own voice and I had actually, this is a weird kind of medical thing, but I had a ranula under my tongue when I was 14, and the doctor had to go in and cut it, right? And so anytime you've had some kind of change to your body, it probably messed up a nerve or two. And so maybe that was a little bit of why, the pitches weren't coming out initially. But regardless, I really became fascinated with how do you teach somebody to do something which they can't see themselves. It's internal. Right. And then how do you do it in such a way that's ethical, that creates long lasting results, like no quick fixes, no gimmicks. It's actually doing real workouts and real routines. And then create a platform where someone who's searching anywhere on the internet doesn't have to go through and find 5, 6, 10 different teachers and then wonder, okay, is what I'm doing actually going to work for me? So it was really the feeling, when after my company sold, I was like, okay, I don't have enough money to go live on the beach. It wasn't beach money, but it was, how can I change the world money? And so being a young 32-year-old entrepreneur, I went, okay, the next thing is I'm going to scratch an itch that I had, and I want to create a platform that other people could jump into and go, I'm going to find a coach because I know my voice, maybe there's something it can't do, or I try and sing that song and it gets stuck and I don't know, it flips, it feels a little funny here or there, and I just know it can do more and I don't know how to do it. How do I do it? And those are the types of people that we find coming into our website. These are the seekers. They're out there searching on Google. We've done some, blog and how do I sing, and they're searching on YouTube. And so they'll come in and, we started off with a lesson platform, which is primarily one-on-one lessons, because that is still the best way to learn is literally with a coach and getting your personal routines. And I think I'll just leave that with one final thought. The majority of people out there today, your listeners watching, a lot of people have discretionary income, but even with inflation, everything that's happening, everyone's budget's getting squeezed. And so, we've been running surveys. We've had over 10,000 people take our survey, like, hey, what kind of lessons do you want? How would you want to take the lessons? And how much budget do you have? And those types of questions, right? And so in that survey, 66% of just the average person coming into our website looking for singing lessons has less than $100 a month. And so the general perception will get people $100 a month, you're thinking, well, that's maybe not a lot of money or a lot of money. But for singing lessons, for a private instructor, instructors want to make a minimum of $60 an hour. Because if you think about it, they went to school for this, the majority of them, they got a degree in it, they learned, like, there's a certain amount of investment that they pay to get their student to learn the thing that they're about to teach. So $60 an hour. And so 4 lessons is $240 a month. So the majority of the market is outpriced they just can't afford private one-on-one instruction, even though we know, and we hope that they know, private instruction is the way to go. It takes a minute for the average consumer to go, I'm ready to make that level of investment. And so I'm gonna pause that thought. I'm gonna answer that in some future questions. But yeah, it's like, what do you do with a private lesson system? And I know for myself, I said I'm gonna start by solving the top of the value ladder first, and we're gonna build the business backwards. So rather than most people might go, oh, let's come out with a $5 or $10 or $20 product and then build it up to the highest. Just know we started with the most difficult problem: one-on-one lessons, private custom instruction for singers, any type of singer out there. It doesn't have to just be a voice singer. There's people that come to us that they want to maybe have their accent. They want to work on their accent because they know if they free their vocals, they can maybe accent reduction. There's people that want to learn other languages. There's people that come to us, kids singing lessons, voiceovers, actors, all kinds of things. There's even someone, well, I'll get to it later, but they came in from a call center because they were losing their voice. They're on the phone all day long. So there's a lot of different reasons you might not think on why someone might want voice lessons. And there's really not a national platform. There's not really a national company that people go, oh, I'm going to go to them because I know they're going to give us a good results for an affordable price.
Right. Well, I would imagine that, when you started working on it, you were sort of, it was pre-pandemic, right? So at that point, you were probably thinking about geographically distant teacher-student relationships. But I'm imagining that during the pandemic, even some folks that were somewhat local just felt like they would be more comfortable in a virtual environment as opposed to a live environment. So did that result in a significant chunk of your, next wave of customers being folks that are actually geographically nearby that could see each other face to face, but then choose to use the remote, or maybe it's a hybrid where they sometimes see each other face to face, but sometimes they do it remote?
Yeah, great question. So obviously the pandemic brought a surge of new business to us. The entire industry in most cases was forced by the law. You must teach online or you go out of business, right? So they all jumped online. And, I would say we got just a wave from that. And we had universities signing up that we'd never really been in the higher ed space, but we started doing contracts, signing up universities, licensing it, changing our license model just to be even more than more like B2B to a small, school. We started doing higher volume price discounts, things like that. We changed, we modified. And to your point, sometimes they're even in the same campus. But for the health and concern and safety, because there was a lot of research, there's a lot we didn't know before the pandemic. But singing, and even singing in choirs, right? There's many cases where a choir would have a rehearsal, and then you'd hear the news report how it was a super spreader event.
Yep.
So singing is kind of one of those things. You're actually just opening your mouth, spraying.
Yeah. Especially if you're projecting your
Spray.
voice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
These aerosols, whatever, it's just coming out, going everywhere. So some schools tried barriers. I mean, I've heard plenty of stories, and I don't claim to know every single way that different administrations and different organizations attempted to mitigate, the pandemic. But I will say it was like, okay, we might be interested. We'll talk about it too. Oh, hey, when can we sign up? We want to get a couple, we want to license the entire university. So
Right.
there was a huge shift for the health and safety concerns. And then the thing that we're seeing now is there's just a general shift and change in behavior regardless. So now that the pandemic, is, let's say it's technically over, but I did do several COVID at-home tests last month, so while I say it's over with a, like, is it over? I'm not sure yet when it will be declared over. I think it's just become generally accepted that, this is going to be part of how it goes until we get, commonplace. And that is the industry. There was a survey I was running way back since we started, and I still have the data from our Typeform, great tool. And so it was like, okay, would you want to teach these online lessons? Would you admit to doing it? And literally, I kid you not, it's around 15 or so% of the types of teachers we're out there approaching that wanted to teach online before, because it was all face-to-face. It's an industry very much like where you've got Uber. And I remember before there was like, this kind of dates everyone, right? But a decade ago, you couldn't just order a taxi on your phone. It was, hey, you gotta hail the cab and they come over. And there's all these, it's an industry that was ripe for change. And that's one of these industries, I would say. The voice industry is one of those industries that is ripe for change because its traditions are so just set in their ways, right? So everyone likes to say, well, we teach the true Italian bel canto method, right? And this was taught to me by my instructor, it was taught by his instructor. And there's these lineage trees, and I totally love all of those instructors, all the way back to Emmanuel Garcia and some of these just, forefathers in the voice teaching industry. But it was just very like, we only do it offline. And if you weren't in that little small group, you probably don't know the secret recipe, for creating great singers. So, because it was that kind of industry, when they got pushed online, it was just like a Wild West moment for the whole industry. And we were caught in the middle of that. But now I will leave you with the last fact on that. There's a statistic that we've seen in our own survey. So it's 15% before the pandemic, starting back in when we started running survey in 2016, to it's 60% now. And that's actually 62% in our survey. And the National Association Teachers of Singing, which we just got our national partnership with, their own survey from 800 and so respondents found 60%. So it's eerily very close. 60 to 62% say they plan to continue teaching online. And one of those methods that we're seeing teachers do is hybrids. And we're seeing that instead of allowing cancellations, it's now virtual makeups. Oh, okay, mom and dad can't bring you this week. Great. We have a virtual makeup policy. So the teacher doesn't lose the revenue, student doesn't lose the opportunity to learn. They can now do it in a more convenient way because, mom and dad were, couldn't bring them that week or whatever the situation was. So we're seeing hybrid be very interesting, kind of like how they use it. And we're also seeing some coaches say, I would never go back to offline. I like online so much. And it's allowed some teachers to do what we call hyper specialize, where now they can very specifically say, I can find the exact type of clients that I help the best because they're not limited to, a 50-mile geography. Their ability to reach people anywhere in the world, is now, it's gone. They can do it on the internet. They can teach on the internet. And so I have a couple stories I'll share coming up, but we're actually pretty exciting in that the growth and potential of this market has literally gone 4x. And we're super excited to keep pushing forward.
Yeah, that actually perfectly leads me into my next question, which is obviously you have a particular genre of opera that you're very interested in, and there are going to be hyper specialists in that. And then there may be other folks who, want to start a heavy metal band, but they want to know how to preserve their voice and still, do the master distorted or screaming level vocals. And you think about, for example, the lead singer of Disturbed and the level of control that he has over his voice without destroying it, right? Which would destroy my voice. I would do one song and I'd be done, right?
You'd be hoarse the rest of the night, scratching.
Exactly.
Right.
Because that just happens if I'm out at a party for like 3-4 hours.
Oh yeah.
Used to projecting at that level.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly, then you've got other folks, and I've considered at times, right? Should I try to get rid of my New York accent, or should I continue to sound like Christopher Walken for the rest of my life, which is what I often get if people are just listening to me and they're not from New York. So, I had bounced the idea around, and maybe I should take vocal lessons and minimize my New York accent. But so there's going to be these subspecialties, and I was sort of curious to the extent that this hyper specialization, how much of your teacher audience and how much of the student audience is interested in that level of specialization. Like, will a heavy metal enthusiast specifically be looking for somebody who can teach them how to, create the proper tenor of their voice without destroying it?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it definitely exists. There are teachers that, like I said, they're moving towards now we can specialize more, whereas before the average teacher had to be more what I would call a generalist. Like, oh, warm body syndrome, you showed up, you got money,
Right.
I'm a teacher, let's do your lessons, right? Whereas now we're seeing singers being able to very specifically go, I want to find that heavy metal or the distortion coach. And so there's several distortion coaches out there, and we have some on our platform, and we've actually built, it's kind of interesting. So getting the business to scale and grow through a pandemic, it's been quite an interesting challenge. And several weeks before the pandemic started is when we first started our big, large marketing campaign. So some of the data I'm going, well, is that because we just started national marketing? Is that because the COVID just happened? So it's a little bit, if anyone accuses me of, well, he's just lumping it into COVID, I'm just saying we started and we're early, and we were to the point where we're already national marketing when COVID showed up. So it definitely gave us a boost. But once we saw that happening, we went, okay, we can only do these one-on-one lessons. Everyone's saying that they want these other needs. Can we expand to this? Can we expand to that? And one of the things we realized is in order to grow our business was we need to help match singers with instructors, right?
Exactly.
So we came up with a very kind of ad hoc, you would call it, bubble gum and duct tape, but you're a startup, so you come up with whatever you can. So we said, hey, let's put together a way to match them. We did that. We did a very rudimentary matching system. We matched over 1,200 singers with instructors, all the way down to what types of genres are they looking to study for. So it definitely is something that we saw coming, and we started to go, how do we increase the matching? And to the point now where we had a lot of success in the growth of that program, that we built a mobile version of the app. And I don't want to say we're anything like one of those dating apps. You've probably heard of some of these names like Tinder or Bumble, and some are, valued at billions of dollars. But we have created a very hyper specialized way for singers to find that coach, and for coaches to not have to spend hours and a bunch of time on emails, because coaches want to be coaching. They do not want to be sitting on their email doing admin tasks that they never had to do before, right? So we said, hey, let's put it all in the hands of their mobile. So we have a new mobile app. It's coming out. We're submitting to the App Store. I will just say on the record here, it will be live by September 10th. So stay tuned, a couple of weeks away. And that's our next version of how we plan to get the mass market to find their specific coach. So you can go in, you can set matching criteria, you can set the budget for the types of coach you're looking for, the times you're available, that the coaches might be offering lessons. And then you can go in and drill down to the specialties that they're offering. So we understand that not everybody would submit to, like, say, opera singing being the most beautiful singing. They make fun of opera singing on almost every cartoon, that you see. They always bring the opera singer out. He just sings his big song, and all types of unfortunate mischaracterizations. But it's definitely a beautiful way if you like that sound. However, that's not the most pleasing sound for some people, like country. They like all these different styles that exist. And I think that's the best thing about the human voice is you don't have to learn my specific philosophy. And I want to state that I don't ever, and nor will I ever state that there's one right way to sing. There's actually many roads that lead to Rome. Okay. And everybody starts from a different path. Even if you were born in the same family, two brothers and sisters, they might speak similar, but everyone has their own way that they've decided, oh, when I speak, I think a thought and a thing comes out of my voice. And so because of that, the way that you have to go through and unlock with each singer is kind of their own puzzle. You have to give them certain exercises. Like first you have to learn how to do the biceps, and you have to learn how to do the triceps. And eventually you get to the point where you can do all these different muscle controlled movements. And when your voice becomes that free, then you can move into these hyper specializations. Like how do you scream or yell safely without damaging your voice so that you can do it 5 nights a week or 8 nights a week and have a major career in it. And I'll tell you, that just becomes a lot of people think of it, but voice and singers are actually some of the highest trained athletes. These are athletes that are actually not moving like a big leg. They're not runners like football players, that are moving these big glutes in their legs. You're moving small, tiny muscles the size of millimeters. Just to get that one way to kind of phrase or shape something that causes the audience to go, oh, I felt that. Like that meant something to me, because the way in which they shared it was just so vulnerable and so authentic and so real. But they don't get to that point of having that level of expression, just by listening to it and guessing. Like that comes from actually doing exercises and working out. So I would say, if you have any interest, I will find a coach for you, Kevin. I'll give you several options. I'll put my money where my mouth is. I'll get you access into the app, and we'll see if we can find the best coach for you.
Well, it's not a high priority for me at the moment, but it does lead me to the next question, which is really, when you look at these marketplaces that are sort of niche marketplaces, they're a two-sided marketplace, right? So you need coaches and you need students, and the coaches in particular need to be of a certain caliber, and I'm sure you vet them to make sure that they are. But then you need enough students, because if you don't have enough students for the coaches you bring in, the coaches are like, why am I here? So how have you balanced that, right? How have you balanced the sort of coach recruiting side of the business with the student recruiting side of the business to make sure that they're sort of in sync?
That's a great question. So this industry is one of those ones we go, okay, where are we going to have the bottleneck first, right? So I'm a big startup fan. I probably read so many startup books. In some point, they say you got to get out of the building, right? Well, the first thing you'd realize in this market is that the largest teacher association in the United States has 6,000 teachers. Then if you do the math, you go over to Facebook, go, how many singers are there on Facebook? 25 million. So hold on, let me do the math. How many students does each teacher have? Okay, let's say 5,000, whatever. Do the math over at home for you guys. But the reality is the average voice teacher has maybe 20 to 40 students. And when they've done surveys before, they actually say something like, we're really only teaching about 4% of singers. There's some super low number, the actual number of people that are really just studying this. And so that comes down to there are not enough teachers, and then there are not enough qualified quality teachers, and you got to go through 5 teachers till you find the one that works. So the way we do it in ours, we're always recruiting for great teachers. If you're a great teacher and you're watching this, we want your resume, submit it, send it in. But if you're wondering, how do I find the right teacher? And we basically know how many singers or teachers we have on the platform. When a teacher signs up, they can choose, hey, I'm going to bring, we call it BYOS. You're going to bring your own students, because many of them already have a brand, they have a studio. So they're like, no, I'm good. I got my own. I'm going to onboard my own students, and then I'll let you know. And then we have some that say, hey, I'm going to sign up, but I need you to bring me students. I'm just getting started, or I don't even want to deal with marketing. Just let me know when there's someone for me to teach. And so what we do on those, we call them our lead singer program. So a lead singer, we go out there and run ads, and we have consistently over years run lots of different campaigns. And I know my cost to acquire a singer, to get them into the app, to get their email, to get them to download. So we can very repeatedly go, okay, we know we got a new teacher. That new teacher placed an order for 10 or 40 new potential leads. We go out there, we run the ad, and we scale it that way. So because the supply of singers or potential people looking is far greater than teachers. Teachers right now and today, and there's a couple business coaches that are specific. There's actually business coaches that just advise voice coaches how to, better, more efficiently operate. And the coaching there is increase your rates to 100 an hour. That's the new thing. It's like, okay, inflation, well, they just went from 60 to 100 an hour. They're trying to push for the new national standard. So rates are going to go up for everybody across the board. And then also they're telling coaches that they need to be very specific about the types of students they accept. So, my fear is that more people are going to want to, go find a coach. It's going to cost more money. And then they're going to maybe not meet the qualifications to get accepted. So where we're going with is, hey, by doing more of this volume approach, where we can get coaches to create a profile, and our new system uses push notifications. So we don't have to, bypass, they don't have to check their emails. They can just get a notification. Oh, I got 3 new students to look. What am I looking at? Oh, I'm watching their singing videos. So I can instantly know. I don't have to find out or wait. I'm literally, we're fast tracking everything is what I can say. So it really comes down to how many teachers can we onboard? And that's why I said, let's go to the largest teacher association in the United States, which we have a partnership with. And we're currently marketing to that group to pull them into our app.
Great. Well, the final question has to do with, what you're thinking and planning around collaborative singing, which could be as simple as a quartet, right? Or it could be a chorus, right? A choral group, and sort of how those teams are using the platform, and how you sort of are evolving the platform to meet their needs.
Yeah, so we did a couple years ago, we did our first pilot. We've done it twice now with this high school. And so essentially we went in, the instructor said, hey, I've got a system. They have a sound system. So we actually set it up and we had the entire section join. And we think this is actually a good model, because the teacher went through one by one and could listen to everybody in the section sing either the same excerpt or the same scale. And then through that process, everybody benefits from listening to somebody in their same voice type try to sing the same thing. And they don't all sound the same, but they sound close. But then you hear, oh, well, she was a little pitchy. And then what was the exercise he gave for that, or she gave for that? And so it's through kind of learning as a group. And that gets me to where we're headed with the product. To solve that initial 66% of the market can't afford private lessons, we're now expanding to group lessons. So this is our big pivot. It's on our crowdfunding page. Bet the kitchen sink and the farm and everything on this pivot. That basically, to reach the mass market at scale, consumers need to spend about 20, 40, 60 a month. That's really where that sweet spot is. And if we look at like Musician, which is a great company, if you've not heard of Musician, check them out. Their plans start at $20 for their premium plan. But that's what the consumers want to spend, $20. So what can we provide for singing lessons for $20? We can provide group lessons. So group lessons allow someone to come in They can then match with other people either trying to learn that same style or genre, like, oh, I want to listen to everybody try and scream their face off on that note, or, right? Or I'm literally looking for vocal technique for beginners. I don't know how to even sing my first song yet, but it's something I always wanted to try. So put me in the beginner class. And then through the process of learning with a group, they can reap the benefits of that affordable price point to enter, to get started before they, ascend up to spending $200, $300, $400, $500 a month. Start at the $20 or $40 price point. So that's really where we've chosen to go. And we think that that works not only for the mass market, but for the choral setting as well, is it's about bring your whole section in. We haven't done a whole choir in one lesson yet, but sections, definitely a section, because most sections, unless it's really big, but then most teachers break their sectionals in their groups of 8 or 16. We go up to 16 in a group, so they can break them up, and then you can spot check those individual singers, because if you're teaching choir, and you're conducting an ensemble, you're thinking about repertoire, you're thinking about the next show coming up, you're thinking about how are you going to make everyone have a really good enriching experience, provide some type of performance for the community to create these lasting experiences for everybody. But at the same time, you can't pinpoint a specific vocal problem with one singer. Mm-hmm. And so we look at it as a very affordable way, which, we haven't done any grant writing, and we're really not moving into the nonprofit space, but there are grants for this sort of thing. And I actually have, a friend that does that. But, we think that the consumer that wants to get better kind of fits within that group plan, and they can benefit so much. And I'll just leave you with, we didn't invent the group lesson system. Actually, I learned about this first from higher education. When you're a non-major, most universities and educational institutions, they don't give you private lessons if you're a non-major. You only get to go to the group class. And so it's kind of like group lessons are a thing that have been done for decades and decades, but we haven't really seen a great way to have it done on the internet. So what we've gone is, hey, we really got this cool thing for one-on-one lessons. Let's expand it for group lessons, and thereby unlock this market that really is not able to get service simply because their budgets put them in a price point that they can't receive services for what they want to learn.
Cool. Well, thanks so much for sharing your journey. Right, clearly you're very passionate about singing in general. I mean, certainly it's one instrument nearly everyone has, with
everybody
very
can
exception.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people get a tremendous amount of joy out of doing it. Some of them, they want to take the joy up a couple of levels by being better at it. So it's really great that you're facilitating that. I think people feel more joyous when they sing, and so from that perspective, there's some positive social impact. So look forward to hearing how you progress, and best of luck in the business, because it seems like you've got some great momentum, and now it's just a matter of finding enough teachers to supply the demand of the students.
Yeah, so they're coming in. I got to go check the new numbers, but we have been sending letters to the National Association, all of its members. And I would just leave you with this. I truly believe in today's world, and there's a lot of things going on, that everybody just saying one song a day, just a little song. And, it could be something just, as, simple as I'm feeling good, whatever you want to come up with. If people just hummed and felt that, the world would be a happier place. There's studies that have been done that when people sing in a choir, their hearts synchronize. The beating of the heart synchronized. So there's so much that we don't fully understand or appreciate, but singing is just something that you can do to get closer to your family. You can get closer to your friends. It's something that everybody enjoys doing. And so I know that today with, there's inflation, there's higher gas prices, there's wars, there's like what's going on in the politics. There's so many problems that we could let's just not think about those. Let's think about how can we be happier? How can we live fuller lives? How can we just spread some love and joy? And I know that singing does that for me. I know that it can do it for other people. And I truly believe that bringing this platform to the masses, it's just going to make so many people happy. And that's what I'm really after, servicing my customers, both teachers and the singers. And so it's a real pleasure, Kevin, to be able to have this moment with you in time to meet with you. And yeah, if you have any other questions, let me know. If anything comes in after our interview today, I'd love to know. And thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure.
Kevin Lee's Power Marketing is available on all your favorite podcast networks. Kevin loves helping businesses excel at marketing. Having marketing challenges? Just like Santa in the Miracle on 34th Street, if Kevin can't help you, he'll know someone who can. Find him on LinkedIn, subscribe, or follow.